Our final speaker for this morning's sessions, well, it's now afternoon, is Mr. Ian Wallace, weather anchor at CNMG, who will do a presentation on behalf of the media. I now invite Mr. Wallace to the podium.
How does this work?
Yeah, this one here is
okay.
Forward.
Okay then. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm glad that we're enjoying some decent weather today. And I think that the Met Service forecast, which is for today, obviously it's going to plan. I think that for quite a few of you who see the TV forecasts on a nightly basis or hear it on radio, etc., you hear a very brief snippet of what is happening. And as you can see, meteorology and climate services extends to quite a few sectors. In this case, I'm borrowing a phrase from my former teacher at Caribbean Institute of Meteorology, Adrian Trotman. It says that everything under the sun is affected by weather and climate. And basically, as we've been seeing all over the presentations today, is that this variability in the climate, and that's what we're looking at. These are 3 to 6 months where you can see variations in either rainfall or in terms of a temperature. Obviously now this year, we did see heat waves elsewhere in the Caribbean. They've actually had pretty cold nights. So definitely that's something that persons who have been across the region, they've been concerned about. Now in terms of the drought that we've been seeing, obviously, this was a forecast actually from the last year. We brought this up. This was from June to December. It was issued in May. And on television, we put it out as being drier than usual for our wet season and for the August rains to begin to peter out and fade away. So basically, as we went into January now, obviously, this was the forecast for the middle of the dry season. And for the viewers and for listeners as well, they got a heads up as it to being extremely hot, what type of temperatures they were likely to see, and also how basically how dry it would be. Now, obviously, this then became into February, obviously more concrete. Now, I'm basically showing you this basically to say that the drought outlooks basically are very accurate. They're 85% accurate across the Caribbean, and this is actually 6 months ahead. So for us in the media industry, it obviously leads to the impacts that we can probably use in terms of stories. So in 2016, it heated up, and obviously we had our heat wave. And that's when we had 5 days in a row of very hot conditions, over 33.6 degrees Celsius, and in some cases it got up to 35, and obviously we got 36 at times. So obviously for the general viewing public, and this may not necessarily be for the sectors here, but they also have various events. They have exercises that they do. They have things that obviously affect them in terms of health-wise. So these type of forecasts and outlooks help them. And it gives them the opportunity to basically be able to use what the Met Service is putting out, and for us in the media to translate it and then put it towards them. Now, obviously, the harsh dry season continued, and quite a few of you here obviously are not using your hoses because there's a hose pipe ban. So for those who like to have clean cars, it's obviously been something that you've had to use, and obviously get accustomed to that. Now, climate services, as we've been talking about, is science-based and it's user-specific. And for the media, it is about enhancing the user's knowledge and understanding the impacts on their decisions and their impacts there. So the question is, what does the media get out of it? We use these seasonal forecasts and we apply them locally as well as regionally, and we're up to 6 months in advance, and it applies to everyone because we basically look at our audience as being across the sector. And this climate variability is what we focus on, and it is those extremes. And we get that information from the forecasters, and then we try to relate that basically to what people are going to see. Now, there are many headlines, many impacts, many outcomes, and there are many stories that we can get out of this. And basically, they can affect everything from national forests, public health, national security. And these are sectors which I come to you to get the basic details from the water or agriculture or national security and how it affects them. Now, this is just a brief weather presentation that was done, and you can probably hear and listen to one of the impacts that we've been using, and it relates to golf.
Wet season failed to deliver the much-needed rains, and very little is likely through the driest month of March. Forecasters expect fewer wet days than normal and very hot conditions near 36 degrees Celsius into February, mainly due to the very strong El Nino. As a golfer, however, how do you think this will impact your handicap? Many golfers say they know every blade of grass when they play in the sun or sometimes in the rain. However, under changing weather, greens and fairways can change. The grass colored dark green to light green responds differently during the dry and the wet season. In western Trinidad, on the Chaguaramas golf course, the original savanna grass native to Trinidad was changed to Bermuda grass for its toughness against dry conditions.
The savanna grass loves the rainy season, and the Bermuda grass loves the dry season, but you still have to water it. The savanna grass, it burns out in the dry season once it's not getting water.
Once the rainfall drops during the dry season, groundwater under Tucker Valley will feed the course.
Because we used to use Wassa water, and with the problem with the Wassa water, we dug our own well. Water comes from the well here into the tanks, and from the tanks, we pump the water from the tanks to the course from that pump room.
Well water refills the 5 tanks in less than an hour. However, the greens take all of the 15,000 gallons all at once. The fairways get less water, however, because of the coral that drains quickly beneath the grass, say groundskeepers.
If once you get some rain for like 3-4 days, we start to wet the greens.
Golfers rarely stray into the forest, which protects the monkeys, deers, armadillo, which call Tucker Valley home. However, wildlife and golfers will face worsening dry conditions during the 2016 dry season. For the Environment Report, I am Ian Wallace.
Okay. Well, as obviously for quite a few of those of you who are golfers coming in, I saw the golf course, and obviously I also noticed the reservoir, which was well below normal. And obviously I've now got the figures, and I'm now going to go find the people from obviously Petrotrin, and I'm going to interview them and try and get them onto the news. And that's what basically we here in the weather like to use, and obviously the climate services from the Met Service give us that outlook. I can now look at stories 3-6 months in advance, and I can actually plan who we're going to look at and what stories are we going to cover and who is it going to impact, and that's what we do in weather. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. And I know the golfers in Pointe-a-Pierre are definitely glad for the rain, for the golf course, as well as